Hey everybody, welcome back to the Never Stop podcast. My name's Dave, and wherever you may be in the world, hope you're doing well, and thanks for tuning in. Well, this week's episode is basically related to loss. And when I mean loss of somebody in your life. Most definitely the hardest loss was my dad. He passed away in February of 2024. And how do you deal with loss? Let me know. it's I mean, throughout my life I've had some friends pass away. I had a friend of mine, he passed away when he was 49, and he was a year older than me. I am now, I'll be 58 on the 27th of this month. And as hard as that was, it's it's still emotional, and you think about the person, but it's definitely not as hard as losing either a sibling or your dad. I think about losing my grandparents and my dad's mother. I was at college and I got a phone call that she passed away, and then I drove down from Vermont back to Connecticut. You went to the church, you go to the burial site, and I didn't really feel too much of anything. Wasn't very emotional, literally till we were leaving, where they were going to lower into their casket in the ground. Then I just lost it. I just started bawling and crying and not being able to control it. And that was for so many minutes. And then I was okay. But I think maybe all those emotions just came out of me at one time. Whereas friends were very hard, but not to that extent. But with my dad, that was a lot different. For him, it was a decline of about, well, I should say decline. He was in the hospital because he had gone to a doctor, and they were worried about his kidneys, and he went in to the hospital. It was okay, and then the next day he was not okay. He had a bunch of small strokes. His kidneys were messed up. What had happened is he had an infection on his heart valve, and the infection broke off, and that created a slew of problems. And when that happened, we thought we were going to lose him that week. We talked to a doctor friend of ours that had just retired. He was in on the meeting with the other doctors because my dad was in the ICU. It wasn't looking so great. And he said, well, let's just give it 24 to 48 hours and see what happens. And it literally took, gosh, I forget how many months in the ICU, but he was getting a little better here and there. And then he actually ended up getting a lot better and going into a rehab slash nursing home. But then because of his kidneys and other things, he would bounce back to ICU and back and forth. And that was 11 months, which, as hard as it was on him, it didn't bother him going to get dialysis. I think it was 3 times a week. It didn't bother him. Definitely harder on my mom and my sister and myself. Uh, and at one point, my dad, after all he'd been through, I would say his brain was about 98 and 99% good. Physically, he had lost so much weight, he didn't have the strength, and it was in a wheelchair, but he was mentally pretty damn good considering all he'd been through. So it was 11 months of him going back and forth, thus having some hope, and then not having hope, and he needed to have the valves replaced on his heart. And the doctor that had seen him in the hospital was actually the same doctor that came to the nursing home. He was surprised my dad was even alive. So as hard as it was for me to lose him, I was grateful that he had 81 years of life. It was 82. I can't even remember. Oh wait, that was 20. Yeah, it was 81, I believe. But as hard as it was the day he passed, I was just thankful to have had him all those years. My friend Jeff, that passed away at age 49, he had a son that was under 10 when he passed away, and he had a wife. And then, probably 5 years later, after he had died, his wife died. So, there you had a son that really didn't even know his parents very much at all, for 8 or 9 years. Mother, obviously, a little more, like I said. But so I don't, some people, I don't get, as much as you want your dad to still be here, I just don't get greedy. I'm just like, I was very thankful. And as hard as it is sometimes, it's that I have to play the position of my dad sometimes with my sister. Whenever my sister would have some kind of issue and she couldn't talk to my mother because they'd both basically be at each other like this. So my dad would wait till my sister calms down. Then he would talk to her and then help her with whatever was going on. So I had to learn from that and do basically the same thing. And that's how it goes. And, which is fine. But, how I'm dealing with it, I will think of my dad definitely daily. When I get out of work, I think of him the most when I'm driving home, or just with anything, because he could fix anything, figure out anything. Always had a positive attitude that we're going to figure things out if there's a big problem. And I'm just trying to be him in that way, even though I can be like my mother and be a little, just not fly off the handle, but be a little not so. My dad's very laid back. I always tell people, if a nuclear bomb went off nearby, my mom would run to the basement. My dad would be like, what are you going to do? When I was younger and going out with my friends, my mother would be in the recliner, usually asleep, and I would sneak by and go to bed. My dad went to bed hours. My dad would be in bed by 10 o'clock and never worried about us, unless we gave a phone call. My mother would always say, if you're not going to be home, just give a call and then we'll pick you up or whatever. And the only time I ever wasn't going to come home, I called her and she was like, what's wrong? What about, blah, 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 blah. My dad didn't even talk to me. He wasn't even worried about it. So I never would call again to say I'm not coming home. So my mother would just get a little crazy. Italian mother, dad was Polish, Ukrainian, dad's laid back, dad figures it out, doesn't worry about it. But I've had friends say it gets easier as time goes by, and I guess it kind of does. And I had another friend that says it's still hard. And there's days it's like that too, but I don't try not to dwell on that, because my dad would be literally probably 6 months before he ended up in the ICU. He said, I don't want to be here if I don't have a good quality of life. And even though it took 11 months before he passed, luckily, the way my work schedule was and my sister is, I can drop my mother off in the early afternoon and my sister could pick her up hours later. So I got to see my dad pretty much almost daily. In that 11 months, my mother only didn't see him maybe 5 days. Most of the days she missed was probably one for weather, and a couple others he was having some procedures done. And one was because I did a charity bicycle ride and got in a bad accident. Luckily, I ended up in the hospital, but I was kind of beat up and I was going to drive her, but I was, I had bunch of scrapes and bruises on my arms, and I just wanted to take it easy. Uh, so she went, like I said, literally every day, or later, and you have to be out by 8 o'clock at night. Uh, that going into an ICU is just hard because you see other people, of all different ages and their families going to see them, and uh, some people are in there, then they're out of there. There's a new person next to my dad the next day, or they passed away, or maybe they got better and got out. And I think that those 11 months were difficult because your life it wasn't normal. And now, I mean, it's still not normal, but my dad would want me to go enjoy things and do things, and that's what I do. And I still talk to my dad every day. I'll say something and or I'll be thinking about something and I'm getting a little either upset or angry, or my dad will be, hey, just when I'm like that, I'll just go, yeah, I know, Dad, it'll be okay. And usually I calm down, and for the most part, I'm kind of like my dad. I just trying to be relaxed and whatever issue comes my way. But, how did you deal with a loss in your life? How does it affect you? Are you forever changed? Or do you have to seek professional help to help you deal with it? I can understand that. I mean, I'm just kind of at peace that he's okay. Uh, I know it's hard for my mom, my sister, and sometimes it's hard for me. But we had a great life. We weren't. My dad was incredibly cheap, and he never made a lot of money. But we always would go on a vacation in the summer for a week. Although it'd be somewhere we never got on a plane ever. We'd be driving to somewhere in New England, maybe New York or Pennsylvania or New Jersey. Uh, and then maybe in the winter, we might visit one of his friends and go snowmobiling and sledding and have fun. So we never jumped on a plane and went to California or to Europe or anything. We didn't have the money. And you know what? I didn't care. We were going somewhere. So that was exciting. We would definitely have fun. We'd go visit people or go with a couple families and maybe rent a house or whatever, a cottage at a lake in New Hampshire or one in Maine on the coast, and just had a good time. Just really enjoyed everything. But in him not being here, yeah, it leaves a hole. And it makes you understand that, how much you miss them. And thankfully, when my dad got sick, if my dad had just passed away, it would have been probably harder because we got to talk to him a lot about things. And that 11 months, not that he was always capable of talking, but it was stressful to see him in the situation he was in, for sure. But it was nice to talk to him, and then his sense of humor came back, and it's like, yeah, he's there. I mean, he'll never maybe be 100%, but he wants to get out of this nursing home and still continue on living, which unfortunately he wasn't able to do. But, we were just thankful we had that extra time with him. Because I had a friend of mine that's a little bit older. He's like in his 70s. And when his dad passed away, his dad just mowed the lawn, laid on the couch, and then he was gone. That was it. So to me, that would have been harder because we were able to tell my dad, I said, Dad, I love you, and talk to him about things and had some good conversations, and it was cool. But you still deal with a loss on a daily basis. Because if I see something, or maybe me and my dad would love to go either on TV or go in person and watch auto races or different things like that. And if I watch something, I wish Dad could see this or make a comment about this. or what's going on in the news or whatever, just or watching some kind of funny video or just dumb things like that and laughing. Uh, then my dad would always have different stories about things that happened in the past, and you'd be like, "Oh, here's another story." But the thing was, it wasn't. He never really ever. I don't think he ever repeated a story. It was always some new story that usually at the end you he would start laughing as he was coming to the conclusion, then you'd start laughing, but you hadn't heard the punchline. Then you hear the punchline, everybody would be laughing because it should be some wild story about something that happened, and you're like, "Oh, that's crazy! It's a crazy friends." Uh, my dad was probably the calmer one among his friends, and even I would say he's the most calm between his two brothers. So, and that those two were twins, and they were one of them is still around in a nursing home, unfortunately, and the other one passed away. I would say at least 5 years ago. But yeah, it's interesting family dynamics. It's just the way people turn out differently and stuff like that. But but getting back to dealing with the loss, I don't know. I like I'll have times when I'm kind of teary eyed. I don't break down and cry, but I'll always say, "I know, Dad, everything's good, and I'll be good," and I won't really go down any kind of dark way of thinking or negative, and because I just know my dad really will always mean a lot to me. It meant a lot to me as I was growing up just to have him. He was always there, very supportive, helped out with everything. He did a lot of things that I didn't know he even did. He had friends that passed away, and he would actually call the wives of his friends, checking up and seeing how they're doing and stuff like that. You need help with anything? You're good, and that's very cool. I mean, not you never know. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't know everything about even the closest people to you until other people, which was my mom, will tell you things about him that you didn't even know. You're like, "Oh, I never knew that." Uh, I mean, even she said whenever there was a bad time, my dad would say, "Just be positive. Everything's gonna be okay. We'll figure it out." And it always was. It always was. It's true. It's like his attitude was always very good. I mean, he was always saying funny things, and we are always laughing about whatever he was talking about or whatever we were talking about. It was just funny. Uh, yeah. At least that's the good thing. I'm lucky to, when I think of my dad, I just smile. And uh, nice thing about these phones is I was able to take pictures of him or shooting video of us going to these dirt track races. That some very cool photos I got, and a couple videos here and there, different things. But it's just nice because I'll see those and I'll just be happy thinking of the time, and it's very cool. But I guess when I was going to do this about dealing with the loss, I was going to probably feel a little differently, but I feel pretty positive. I mean, of course it's sad, but that's just life. Maybe years ago, my dad, he was probably about 65, around that age, and he had an issue where he was kind of out of breath, and he thought he was, I'm just getting older or something, and he had to have a stent put in, and he was okay. He was fine after that, and maybe he could have passed away then, or any other things. Even my mom had a couple times she could have passed away. She had a stroke, then she had a bleeding ulcer during COVID, and luckily they had the right doctors there that saved her life. Otherwise, she probably would have bled out. So she just turned 84 in December, and she has all her marbles, so that's good. And we still make jokes and laugh and have a good time, which is good. But I know it's hard for her, but we just try to make it we just try to make each other feel better. Uh, then my aunt, my mother's sister, will say, "Yeah, your mother really misses your dad," and I can understand that. They were together. They were married for 59 years and basically were together since the age of 18. So that's a pretty obviously deep bond there. And that's an incredibly hard thing. And I know it's probably, well, it's definitely hardest for my mother, but she will still be pretty positive and, and we'll talk about stuff. And, what can you do? It's just, he's not here, and we just go on, and we always will think of him and think of, well, what would dad have done? Or I'll say in my mind, I need to be more like, I need to be more like dad in the mindset of, okay, let's just slow down and figure this out, and we'll solve it, and we'll get through it. So maybe I'm dealing with things better than I thought. I thought I was going to get very emotional and whatever, but I think I'm just very lucky and proud to have had the dad I've had. Um, like I said, I said this, it was very difficult for me to talk when he passed away. I didn't know what I was going to say, and I'd written a post literally the day after on Facebook, and I just read that, and literally the first sentence, I practically almost broke down. Then I just took a breath and got through it. And then I started talking about my dad, and at the end, I said, my dad was the perfect dad for me and for us, and we were very lucky. And that's still how I feel. And I mean, this is kind of why I got back to doing the podcast, because it's a good emotional outlet. It's 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 I haven't talked to like a professional person like some people. My sister did, which is good. It works for her. For me, I like this because you could talk to people, and people will make comments, good or bad or whatever. I don't really care. If you make a bad comment, I think it's funny, but negative comment. But it's good for me to just talk about it and get it out there, because that's kind of why my podcast had stopped. I wasn't doing anything, and I just didn't want to do it. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna wait. So I just waited till I felt like talking about it, uh, and it feels good to just get that out. Not, I think the worst thing to do is just to bottle everything up and then you just explode or something really sets you off. And I really don't want to be like that. I mean, as when I was much younger in my 20s, I'd be kind of angrier. Not to anybody in particular, usually myself. I was usually really hard on myself, get upset at myself, and had that kind of anger of like should be better, or I'm not where I want to be. And instead of just enjoying where I'm at and being thankful, I'd be like, I want this, or I need to achieve this, or whatever. Um, Now I don't really worry about that. I kind of just try to enjoy everything I can. And that's where I'm at now. As much as I would love to share a lot of things with my dad that happened, um, I'm thankful I had all those years and did all those things with my dad, uh, and enjoyed my time with him. Uh, and, everybody believes in something, what happens after we're gone. And I always say, if there's a heaven, I hope it's nice, but I just hope it isn't so nice that it's boring. uh, there's this one movie, Timothy Hutton and Kelly McGillis are in it. And if you don't know who they are, you can look them up. Kelly McGillis was in the first Top Gun with Tom Cruise, so you can find her. And it's that they both pass away. And I know Timothy Hutton, he passes away, and he visits his mom. And in heaven, you can go to wherever you want. like, oh, I want to be in France, I can make a painting, or I can go eat sushi in Japan. If you want to work, you can work, and if you don't want to work, you don't have to. But nobody gets hurt, or you're in heaven. So if I could literally not work, but I can just have a cool house, doesn't have to be anything crazy, and go ride bikes and have fun with my friends and have it be just like it is now, but not have to worry about getting sick or getting hit by a car on a bicycle or anything like that. That would be kind of cool, and just going out with friends and having fun. Um, but I don't know if it could be really perfect. I don't know, but people, we don't know. There could be absolutely nothing. This could be, you're gone and it's done, and that's it. You'll never know it. That's kind of scary to me. Sometimes, very rarely, I might be up at night thinking about that. What if there's nothing and there's no blackness or nothing, you're just gone and you will never know. So I think that's the big thing. I mean, I was thankful the day my dad passed away, because the doctor told us he couldn't get another dialysis, and because if he had dialysis again, it was going to kill him. So basically, and that upset my mother. Like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And my sister said, well, that means he's going to heaven. That's what my sister said. He said he's going to heaven. And so I remember going to see my dad on a Friday night and to pick my mom up. And we were watching a NASCAR truck race, and my dad was just sitting there. I wasn't talking, but he was watching the race. And there was a big crash, and my dad shaking his head. Oh, wow, that's just nuts. And then Saturday, we went, and then I usually let my mother go down, takes the elevator down, then I'll meet her down there, and I just want to spend time with my dad alone. And his eyes were closed, and I was talking to him and just saying, Dad, I said, Dad, everything's going to be okay. We had a great life. We had a great life with you. You're the best dad ever. And we'll be okay. I'll take care of everything. You don't have to, you don't have to hold on anymore. You don't have to hold on. It's okay. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. And then the next day, I'm in the basement on my bicycle. I ride on this trainer. Yeah, I ride indoors in the winter. And my sister either calls me, I think she called me, or texted me and said, you need to come see Dad. I jumped off the bike, took a super fast shower because I was pretty nasty, and I got there, and my mother was there, my sister was there, and my mother's brother and his wife were there, and he passed away when they were there. So as I got there, I knew he was gone, and I knelt by him and cried, and it was just a lot of emotion and crying, and my mother got up and put her hand on me, and it was a lot, and but I was very thankful that they were all there with him, because I was going to go see him later anyway, and I think it was like, that's what it was. He died at 3:11, and my sister and I, when the doctor said this, we just thought of the band 311. I don't know, whatever. It just popped in our head real weird. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, he doesn't. I told him last night he can go and he doesn't have to suffer anymore. And as hard as that was, I was just happy he didn't have to suffer. But I knew it was just a lot for my mom and my sister to deal within me. And, that's why I'm emotional now, because you will forever care for that person. But I'm just thankful. And I guess this is how I'm dealing with loss, is just talking about it. It's good to have emotions and let it go and feel them and know that as hard as it is, everything is going to be okay. Even when it's not okay, it's going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. At least if you're not okay, like I said, I'm not a doctor or professional, but either talk to a friend, talk to a family member, or talk to a professional if you need to talk to somebody and get it out. Just get it out. That's the best thing you can do. So on that note, that teary-eyed note, I will just bid you all just have a beautiful day and enjoy the people you're with and love them and enjoy your day, morning or night, wherever you may be in the world. And until next time on the Never Stop podcast, all you can do is just keep moving forward and deal with what you need to deal with. And I always try and be as positive as I can be. So I just want to thank you all for watching or listening wherever we may be. And until the next time, adios. And thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.